Hubbock, MSU Assessment Director. We are here today at a public hearing for Cedar Shores Industrial Park, which is located down off of Camp, just before the Dunkin' Donuts, if you're familiar with that area. It is located in Commissioner Moore's district. The proposed assessment consists of 0.23 miles in length. The road is currently county maintained and will be maintained by the county in the after conditions. The scope of the project is to reclaim, and we're going to be adding 2 inches of S-type SP 12.5 asphaltic concrete to handle the truck traffic, and that was assisted with the design, obviously, by our engineer record, which is Guietto Development. And we'll be cutting back the shoulders, and the drainage system is in good condition out there, so there's nothing being proposed to the drainage. And the driveways, we'll be doing our kind of our typical, we don't have to completely rebuild driveways or any of the existing pipes that's underneath them. The petitions were mailed out back in July of 2018 and opened at the clerk's office on September 12th. And the contractor approved is Pave Right Construction. We had 17 property owners mailed out, 10 responding, 5 in favor, 4 not in favor, and 1 invalid response. Our estimate in the petition went out from between $10,000 to $12,000. And actually, with the bid and everything, and our total cost is actually going to be lower than our petition. It's going to be $8,951.21 with a maximum annual rate of $1,205.71. And I do have some photos that I will scroll through that was taken in the project site. And we're heading towards the cul-de-sac at the north end. And that's our photos.
Very
Cedar
good.
Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Hibbett. I'll bring it to the board for first if there are any comments or questions before we go into public comment.
Just a question, who was the invalid vote and why were they invalid?
The no person invalid. Hold on a second, it's somewhere in my book here.
I can tell you.
Mesh Goldwyn, care of Jackson Properties.
Okay, and why were they invalid?
Unfortunately, we have invalids where they sign them and they do not check yes or no.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. Okay, very good. At this moment in time, I'd like to open it up for public comment. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to address the board concerning this, I'll invite you to come forward and give your name and address for the record. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this? Sure, please come forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Aaron Johnson, Johnson Brothers Plumbing. We signed, we're for the paving of the road. The only thing that I had question on was, is there a possibility of getting sewer lines put down that road? I know ideally it would be done before the roads get paved, so we wanted to kind of approach you guys with that to see if that's a possibility.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We will certainly attempt to answer that question during this time. If not, we may need to get back with you on that.
Thank you.
But thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this issue? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. Concerning that question, is this in any of our thought process or our planning, this area?
If I may, part of our coordination efforts is we do make contact with all the utility companies in the area. Marion County Utilities does have a facility running down Camp. I think potentially it may get impacted if some future assessment would be done, but there's not any plans currently that they have to do any installation of any facilities.
So how, do we know how close it is?
on
It's
Merricamp,
running
right
down
there.
Merricamp, so
right
it's
there.
within a 400-foot.
Oh, yeah, like 2 lots.
I think the question too, are they willing to include it in the assessment so we can run the line? Not sure if that's what they are asking for or not.
It-
ideally.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson, we won't be able to hear you from there. And it seems like that is something you would like us to consider.
Yes, if it can be considered, obviously, I think it needs to be done before the roads. So if it could be
You
packaged
don't want to tear the road
together.
and then start patching it up
Right.
afterwards, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Okay.
and the reason is what? I'm assuming that your drain fields and, you know,
Well-
you're in a small, tight commerce park as it is.
We are, and our parking is limited, and we're not able to utilize some of our parking because of the septic at
Sure.
Springfield. Whereas if we put gravel or something else, at least it could be used. So,
Sure.
Question.
Yeah,
Would this
Commissioner Gold?
need to
We'd
be
have to run.
tabled then for them to come back and re-petition it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
I think it was
Not
not,
unless it goes over the rate.
it was not in the original assessment, in the original notice. I mean, if you can approve this project and we put it on hold until we go through the process again and see if people will agree to
Because they
include.
may not agree to the price of
That's correct.
the
The sewer
septic.
line.
Right, because they probably want, what about
Yeah, but
water?
this is one of those
it water
projects-
and sewer? Because you're running off wells? I'm sorry,
We're
Madam
run-
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead,
Is it,
Commissioner
are you
Gold.
running off individual wells for your businesses too?
Yes.
we are on
Probably.
wells,
So are you looking just for the sewer or for water and sewer?
just for the sewer.
Which I think, that was my question. I mean, we've got some consideration going on right now, but this is not in any of that consideration.
No,
Okay.
And it would probably, I wonder how long it would take for that to be evaluated.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I think we're good with you at this moment in time, unless Commissioner.
No, I
Moore?
just wanted to ask.
Yeah, well, then I was gonna ask, our utilities,
they don't seem to be getting up.
whichever one of them is going to address us.
I'd be happy to address the board. Angel Rosell, Assistant County Administrator for Public Works. And we do have a water line and a sewer line right off of that entrance on Merricamp Road. It is a force main, and we know that there could be different options. There could be a collection system, gravity system running through that, but we would have to evaluate the cost of that and then build a lift station. That's a common lift station for everybody in that park. That's one scenario. Another scenario would be extending that force main and allowing each one of these individually to put in their pump stations and connecting to that force main. So there's multiple scenarios that we can look at and bring back options to the board, and each one of them will have different costs involved in it, and of course there's the cost of connecting too, the capital charges related to that.
One step back.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Gold?
What would be the time frame of getting that, and would it interfere with the project that Sean has going on? Because I know we probably have a limited space to get this started,
It would definitely delay it a bit.
Yes.
to get those prices and all. And
In
it's probably
order-
gonna be costly.
In order to get a full qualified bid, we would have to go through the bidding process. If it's a budget number, we can certainly bring back budgetary numbers within a few days or a week from a budgetary perspective. But if it's a full-blown bid, we would have to design all this and put it out for bid and get those prices back to be able to
They-
fully qualify it.
They may just come up and see the price with the lift stations and all and say that's a lot more to put in than.
It's possible.
Well, with 17 parcels too, I mean, we need to look at the cost associated. I mean, would this be a project that would be feasible at this time to consider? Or can you give any sort of expert range?
Because it is non-residential, if it was residential, I would give you a range right now, but not knowing exactly what those businesses are doing and what flow are they using, I wouldn't know exactly what their capital charges, for example, would be. So I don't even know the exact length that we would have to run the pipe or any of that, so I don't want to give you a number right now that it's completely off base.
But that's something we can get to you, a ballpark estimate real quick.
Okay.
Yes. The estimate definitely, in the next couple of days, we can bring back information.
So if we were to move forward with approving this today, and then the ballpark figure, would we then call another meeting with them, the owners? How would we address it with the owners in that park if we were to want to see if they'd like to be assessed and move forward with this?
If we're going to include the utility charges in the assessment, we've got to go through the whole assessment process under our ordinance again for that, for it to be a valid assessment. So we'd have to start all over, basically.
Okay. Commissioner Zalek?
So why couldn't we do it differently though? Why couldn't you, if this particular subdivision wanted to go, I mean, it's a commercial subdivision, right? But if they wanted to go that route, I mean, certainly you could bond the utility part if it's expensive. If it's not too expensive, it could be funded out of the utility fee, and then just put on their rate for, you know, an administrative or right? I mean, you could create a separate fee for
Include
that
cost in the
infrastructure
rate.
in the rate, right?
It would essentially be creating another assessment. I mean, the way that you are describing it, the way I'm interpreting it, you would go into that area and determine what the cost would be for the sewer, and then do an assessment over it. So,
Well, and plus, I mean, DEP wants especially, you know, 17 businesses, right? I mean, there could
it's certainly an
definitely be
area
grant fees available.
And I would agree with that it is an area that you definitely want to go after. However, the time frame that it takes for those grants to come down from the state, it takes some time. So how that lines up with the time frame of the MSDU and the road assessment, it's probably not going to be something that will line up unless it's tabled for significant time.
Which that takes us then to the cost of the project. There's a chance, how long is the bid good for this project?
We've received the bid a few months ago, and we always discuss that with the awarding contractor with an anticipation of a date. So I would think they might not hold out their same costs for another 6 months with the way construction's going currently.
I think it'd be worth asking. I think it'd be worth
Yeah.
having a conversation with them. I mean, if we're going to get up at the 50,000 level and look at the whole thing comprehensively, I think it would be worth asking.
Is the contractor in the audience today?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, this was discussed at one of our meetings. The gentleman that came up was the only one that really kind of discussed this because of the concerns that they have on all the additional parking that they're currently using. They're also parking out in the right-of-way as well. So I understand. There was some discussions about purchasing some other adjacent properties and so forth too. So there was quite a bit of discussion, not necessarily in favor of installing utilities, but trying to help him address some of his parking. I don't know where that's gone. Nobody's reported back to me if they're consummating a real estate transaction or not, but I know that was discussed.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bryant?
So, I mean, I'm going to suggest that maybe we continue this. How long will it take you to get us some preliminary figures?
I would say a week. To get
Solid preliminary figures.
hard numbers. Jody, can you?
Hard numbers if we bid.
You gotta come up.
Mr. Kirkman, you'll have to come forward and give your name for the record, please.
Sorry about that. Jody Kirkman, Environmental Services Director. For hard bid numbers, I mean, we'd have to put plans together, go on the street, as Angel described earlier. That would probably take us about 4 months.
Okay, so Madam Chair, what I'm gonna suggest is that we continue this public hearing. Don't get the hard numbers, get some preliminary estimates. You hold a meeting with the folks involved out there. Let's get some feedback from the other people that this would affect. And then if they're interested in moving forward with it, and also we need to talk to the contractor, find out how long the contractor will hold at this price. And I mean, if we can coordinate it and make it happen, great, but if we don't have an interest, if we've only got interest from one of the property owners, it would be kind of hard for us to impose this at this time. And then we can come back, maybe we can continue this to our next board meeting, or if
Yeah.
that'll give you time,
May,
Just make it the next board meeting.
May 21st.
yeah.
Okay, so, Commissioner Bryan, is the workup that you're contemplating getting the feedback on, does that include an analysis of what these businesses are, so we would know what the capital charges would be for the hookups?
Yeah, we would have to analyze to at least give a ballpark figure of what that overall assessment would be.
All right, and so since our next board meeting is actually on May the,
21st.
oh, I'm looking at the 7th, wrong year.
So,
Okay, our next board meeting would be scheduled for May the 21st. Why don't we hold this to June the 4th? That way you've got plenty of time to get what you need. You've got plenty of time to meet with the people out there, talk with the contractor, just tell him that we're only holding off until June the 4th. I'm sure he'll hold his price until then. And then everybody can come back and let the board know what's happening, and we can make some solid decisions.
One more.
Yes, Commissioner
well, you have
Gold?
to repetition, wouldn't you?
We do.
Well,
I
if
was
we're
go-
going to, yeah, we would have
Okay.
to do that. What this would enable you to do, though, is if these numbers are so high that clearly it's not feasible, then we can go ahead with this
Correct.
project. Yeah.
Correct.
Commissioner Gold, you had something?
And they indicated they weren't worried about the water connection, but how much is the water connection in there? Because if we're doing the sewer too, because I'm thinking of, that might be something where they save money on fire flow if they have, but I don't know if it would outweigh it or not.
So we will analyze both systems, and we'll bring you the cost of the water system extension and the cost of the sewer system extension, and then at that point, you can hear the comments from the
It's gonna be
public and
cheaper
make a
overall
decision.
for them to run both.
That's what I was
Right.
thinking.
Because we actually
and-
make money on water and we lose money on sewer, so it makes,
Yeah, and for
Right.
Mr. Johnson, what I'm talking about, and if it's all right, I'll address them, is
Yes.
if there's water out there, it would have advantages of fire hydrants, which could possibly lower your insurance rates, and you might see a savings on there, so. But when they're doing them, it's sometimes better to do them at the same time.
So, do I have a motion then to table this to June the 4th for that work to be done?
Yep.
Got a motion by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Gold. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously.
So, Madam Chair, will this appear on the public hearing portion of the June 4th?
It will need to.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
I just have a clarification, we will not have to re-advertise that public hearing, correct?
no.
Just give notice to the property owners.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let them know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
You have to give notice.
We
very
adjourned?
good. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.